Greetings and welcome to another edition of Midweek Boost. I'm sorry that I couldn't record a message last week, but I had what the doctor diagnosed as a sinus infection that rendered me so hoarse I could hardly speak above a whisper for about 3 days. You may notice that I'm still a little hoarse, but hopefully getting better every day. Today we're going to consider the greatest commandment. It's found in Matthew's Gospel, the 22nd chapter, verses 37 through 40. One day Jesus was asked, "What is the great commandment?" And he answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." And then he went on to say, "And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." I think that we would all agree that Christianity is about the gift of God's love and of God's expectation of us to be loving. The key word in Christianity is love. Christianity is founded on the interconnectedness of God's love and on our response to the gift of that love and how we then share what we've experienced with others. My message today is a challenge to all of us, a challenge that all of us will open our hearts and minds to receive in a fresh and new way the love of God. Let us intentionally empty ourselves of all that presently fills us as imperfect people, and let the love of God begin to fill the empty space and overflow in our work and witness as God's people. Jesus clearly explains that we're not to copy the world's model, but that our love is to be characterized like the love that he demonstrated in countless ways and examples when he was on this earth. Jesus takes all that had been said and known about love and gives it a whole new dimension and direction. He says, "I want you to love one another as I have loved you." Now, it wasn't a love based on reciprocation, nor was it a conditional love. It was totally and fully unconditional. It's at the point of Christian love that the gospel of Jesus Christ is most radical and revolutionary, because the love that Christ proclaimed is foreign and contrary to our human nature. If we could only remove the story of Adam and Eve from the Bible would be reduced to a book of moral niceties. However, the Adam and Eve story demonstrates for us that we're in the midst of a great spiritual struggle and warfare. This struggle is an ongoing historical reality every day of our lives. Just look at what's taking place in our country today. In John 13, Jesus gives his farewell command to his disciples. The time was getting short. If they were ever to hear his voice, they must hear it now. By the same token, if the church is ever going to start fulfilling the command to love one another, it must start showing the love of God now so the world can begin to heal. Next, the greatest commandment is a challenge, because to love is very costly. C.S. Lewis wrote, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will certainly be wrong and possibly be broken." Then he concluded, "The only place outside of heaven where you can be perfectly safe from the danger of love is hell." Now, Lewis is not talking about love as we have reduced it in common language. We love everything from cheesecake to fried zucchini. But love is relational, personal, and interpersonal. It involves risk and a willingness to be vulnerable. In relationships, there's usually a price to pay. When we love, what hurts another hurts us. What brings them sorrow brings us tears. What causes them anxiety makes our hearts beat faster. If you want to be safe from pain, don't love. But if you want to be human, go ahead and accept the fact that you have to love, even though it is costly. Finally, to love at all is to have experienced the grace of God. We can't share what we haven't experienced or refuse to experience. God loves us with a love that we call agape. It is a love so pure that it cannot be expressed. It can only be felt. God does not ask us to love others as he loves us, for he knows that that is impossible. Rather, he asks us to love one another as we love ourselves. In other words, we must consider others on the same level on which we consider ourselves. We love because we've been loved. We are forgiven in the same manner that we forgive. So you see, in keeping the greatest commandment, we keep them all. If we love God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and our neighbor as ourselves, then there's nothing else that God expects of us. We are counted as righteous before God, and we will carry within our souls a peace that passes all understanding. Until next time, I pray that God will help, strengthen, and bless you as you strive to keep this commandment. Amen. Please join me next week for another edition of Midweek Boost.